After Qi Qingyan saved me and was left disfigured, he became known as a monster among the people of the capital. To repay his kindness, I married him. After our marriage, he always wore a mask and refused to share a bed with me. Yet, with a sinister twist, he made me kiss his scars every night. Just as I decided to divorce him, Qi Qingyan died unexpectedly. While sorting through his belongings, I discovered a letter he'd written to a friend. If I could, I would rather not have saved her. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the year before his disfigurement. My white robe was as pure as snow, and a gentle breeze blew through the clear air. I suddenly realized that the way I had repaid his kindness in my previous life might have been wrong. No one wants to face the one who ruined them day in and day out. What I should have done was stay away, until I cast a few extra glances at the handsome, refined musician at the flower viewing banquet. Qingyan cornered me behind the garden, his eyes bloodshot, his face dark with gloom. He's more handsome than me without the scar, isn't he? Main text. The 70th birthday banquet at the Marquis of Jing'an's mansion. Every prominent family in the capital had received an invitation. After paying our respects to the Marquis, I sat quietly with my mother at the guests' table. Around me, a group of ladies and young misses chatted about the latest gossip in the capital. I hear young Master Qi is coming today. Which young Master Qi? Who else? The legitimate son of the Qi family's second branch, Qi Qingyan. Hearing that familiar name, my heart skipped a beat. Yet the first image that sprang to mind was a hideous, terrifying scar. Why would Qi Qingyan be here? Clearly, at this very moment in my previous life, he hadn't come. Someone voiced the question I was thinking. Hasn't he always disliked social gatherings? Who knows? I hear he's been going out a lot lately. Perhaps he's finally come to his senses. If he has come to his senses, the capital is bound to get lively. That was certainly true. The Qi family lived in opulence, a lineage of nobles spanning generations. Qi Qingyan had been brilliant since childhood and was the favorite disciple of Chief Minister Qin. The imperial princes were also on good terms with him. Now, all that remained was for him to pass the imperial examinations. In the future, he was certain to be infeft as a marquis and appointed as chancellor. I stared blankly into space. In my previous life, Qi Qingyan's path to officialdom was indeed smooth. Except for that face of his, which was the subject of so much criticism. Some even said that if it weren't for his disfigurement, the Qi family would never have looked upon our Qing family with favor. The voices in my ears hadn't ceased. Qi Qingyan's appearance is truly beyond reproach. You couldn't find another like him in all of the capital. He is just a bit cold-hearted. Last time I spoke to him at a banquet, he merely nodded and walked away without uttering a single word. Cold is just fine. Those who smile at everyone are actually rather dull, the young women giggled, covering their mouths. Their eyes sparkled with eager anticipation. Suddenly, someone at the table called out, "Master Qi has arrived." I instinctively looked up. A figure as beautiful as a painting walked right past me. There were no twisted, hideous scars on his face. His skin was smooth, his features clear and bright. A faint, almost imperceptible smile played at the corners of his lips. It was Qi Qingyan. I felt dazed. It seemed this was the first time I had ever seen his true face. Many eyes followed him as he walked. I mingled among them, wanting to etch his image into my mind. But the next second, Qi Qingyan suddenly tilted his head. He looked straight in my direction. My fingertips trembled. The teacup tilted, and water spilled out. My mother whispered, "Be careful." By the time I had steadied my nerves and looked up again, Qi Qingyan had already averted his gaze. The noble young ladies around us could no longer contain themselves. Some of the bolder ones were even making their way toward him, teacups in hand. Their eyes sparkled as they moved. I looked away. My heart was calm, even calmer than I had imagined. I simply felt that it was enough for him to be alive. No burns, no disfigurement, no being called a monster by the people of the capital. That was enough. In my previous life, Qi Qingyan and I met at Xian Temple. It was there that I became trapped in the fire. Qi Qingyan was struck by a falling beam while trying to save me, and half his face was burned. It wasn't until I awoke from my coma that I learned Qi Qingyan had nearly lost his life to those burns. After that day, the most dashing young master of a distinguished family in the capital became the monster everyone spoke of. Everyone lamented his fate. Yet everyone also breathed a sigh of relief, relieved that it wasn't their own child. The man who had once been the center of everyone's attention was now shunned by all, and it was all because of me. In my past life, overwhelmed by guilt, I knelt before the matriarch of the Qi family without a second thought, declaring I would marry Qi Qingyan and spend my entire life repaying him for saving my life. The matriarch's gaze was incredibly complex. In the end, she merely sighed and said, "Child, have you really thought this through? Qingyan. He is no longer the Qingyan he once was. I didn't care. His face was disfigured because of me, and he was reviled by the world. What right did I have to look down on him?" But on our wedding night, Qi Qingyan sat impassively on the edge of the bed and slowly removed his mask. He pointed to the scar on the side of his face. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Kiss here." His tone brooked no refusal, yet it also seemed tinged with a near-morbid stubbornness. I knelt beside him and leaned down to kiss the scar on his face. When my lips touched the uneven skin, his whole body trembled, yet he never pushed me away. I stammered nervously, "Don't look down on you." Qi Qingyan said nothing. He merely lowered his eyes to watch my trembling fingertips. Such things happened once every few days. He wouldn't touch me, yet he made me kiss those scars. At first, it was just his cheek. Later, it spread to his neck, arms, and chest. I thought he was afraid I would despise him. That was why he tested me time and time again. But gradually, I came to understand. Qi Qingyan wasn't afraid I would despise him. He was testing me, warning me. He used those scars to remind me that he had been wounded for my sake, to ensure I would forever remember my debt to him. Qi Qingyan was tormenting me. He was in pain, so he made sure I suffered too. 3 years. 3 whole years. I finally mustered the courage to pick up my pen and write a letter of divorce. But the butler brought news of his death instead. How utterly ridiculous. What is Miss Qing doing here? A familiar voice interrupted my memories. By the time I snapped back to reality, Qi Qingyan was already standing before me. I composed myself and replied with polite detachment. I was simply feeling a bit stifled, so I came out for some fresh air. The birthday banquet had been crowded, with everyone gathered around Qi Qingyan, chatting idly. The more I listened, the more stifled I felt. I had no choice but to slip away to find some peace. Little did I know that before I could return, I would run into Qi Qingyan. He showed no sign of stepping aside. He simply stood there, his gaze fixed on my face, as if trying to make out something. After a long moment, he spoke slowly. "Miss Qing, you were looking at me for quite some time just now at the banquet. My heart skipped a beat. So when he turned his head back then, he really had seen me." I pressed my tense fingertips against my palm, lowered my eyes, and replied flatly, "Master Qi possesses the grace of a celestial being. Many at the banquet were gazing at you." Qi Qingyan fell silent for a moment. I did not wish to have any further entanglement with him, so I forced a distant, polite smile. "We have never met before, but I have long admired your reputation for talent, so I merely took a few extra glances. If I have offended you, I offer my apologies." With that, I turned sideways, preparing to walk past him. Just as we were passing each other, my wrist was seized. The grip wasn't tight, yet it carried an unwavering certainty that left no room for escape. I froze in place. His voice came from above me. "Miss Qing seems quite afraid of me. Do I look frightening?" "No, not at all. Quite the opposite. This face is too handsome. Me so handsome it makes my heart race." I didn't respond. Qi Qingyan suddenly took 2 steps closer. I instinctively took a step back. He stopped. His gaze fell on my face. He studied me impassively for a moment. Then suddenly smiled. Qingyang, why are you afraid of me? It wasn't fear. It was guilt. I owe Qi Qingyan my life. In my past life, I sacrificed my entire existence. Yet the outcome fell short of my expectations. In this life, I've come to understand, the best way to repay that debt is to keep my distance. To live our own happy lives, with no debts between us. I made my voice sound calm enough. I'm not afraid of you. Young master, it's just that your reputation precedes you. I'm afraid that if I stand too close to you, those with ulterior motives might see us and spread gossip. After all, our Qing family is of humble standing. We cannot afford such gossip. Qi Qingyan's grip loosened slightly. I seized the moment to pull my hand back and took 2 steps backward to create some distance. If you have no further business, young Master Qi, I shall return to my seat. Without waiting for his reply, I turned and walked away quickly. After taking a few steps, my heart was still racing uncontrollably. Behind me, an intense gaze burned into my back. Yet I dared not look back. Why would this incarnation of Qi Qingyan take notice of me? After all, he hadn't even attended the birthday banquet in my previous life. We were never meant to have any connection at this time. Back at the banquet, seeing me in a daze, Mother asked softly what was wrong. I shook my head. Soon, Qi Qingyan returned as well. He didn't look well, frightened by his appearance. The noble young ladies dared not approach him to speak. By the time the birthday banquet ended, dusk was approaching. I helped my mother into the carriage. The moment the curtain fell, I finally let out a sigh of relief. But the carriage hadn't even made it out of the alley before it stopped. The coachman's voice came through the curtain. Madam, there's a carriage blocking the way ahead. My mother lifted a corner of the curtain and paused slightly. It's the Qi family's carriage. My heart leapt into my throat again. Qi Qingyan stood at the entrance of the alley. His white robes were as pure as snow, and his bearing was as graceful as a painting. He walked toward our carriage. With every step he took, my heart sank a little more. Madam Qing. Qi Qingyan came to a halt before the carriage window and first bowed to my mother. His bearing was dignified and impeccable. My mother replied with a smile. Young Master Qi, is there something you need? Qi Qingyan's gaze swept past my mother and settled on me. I inadvertently offended Miss Qing a moment ago, so I have come to apologize. He took a small, exquisite silk box from his sleeve. A small token of my regard, please accept it. Miss Qing. My mother looked at me, then at him. A hint of an inscrutable smile in her eyes. I did not take it. My tone was flat. You overestimate the matter, Mr. Qi. It was merely a misunderstanding. I haven't given it a second thought. Qi Qingyan seemed not to detect the distance in my words. Instead, he gave me a smile. I found myself momentarily lost in thought. So what those noble ladies said was true. Qi Qingyan truly possesses the beauty of a celestial being. No wonder his personality changed so drastically after his disfigurement in his previous life. The contrast must have been something no one else could have imagined. His voice was gentle and polite. If Miss Qing refuses to accept this, it means you are still holding a grudge against me. My mother nudged me gently. Since it is a token of Mr. Qi's goodwill, you should accept it. I bit my lip, reaching out to take the silk box. My fingertips inadvertently brushed the back of his hand. Qi Qingyan glanced at me briefly but said nothing more. Thank you, Mr. Qi. I quickly withdrew my hand, not even glancing at what was inside the box. The curtain fell once more. The carriage began to move slowly. I lifted a corner of the curtain and looked back. Qi Qingyan was still standing in the same spot. His silhouette stretched long by the twilight. He seemed to be watching our carriage. Through the deepening night, I couldn't make out the expression on his face. Yet, for some reason, I felt that gaze was somewhat familiar. The The silk box slipped from my hand, and its contents rolled out. It was a white magnolia hairpin, exactly like the first hairpin he had given me in my previous life. Identical. Upon returning home, Mother told Father about the incident. I've always heard that young Master Qi is a cold-hearted man. But after what happened today, I'm afraid that might not be true. A daughter knows her mother best. I smiled helplessly. Mother, please stop joking. Marriage is all about matching social standing. And besides, I have no interest in Master Qi. It wasn't that Mother was worrying needlessly. It was simply that I had indeed reached the age where marriage was on the horizon. Though the Qing family was no grand noble house, we were still unwilling to marry me off to just anyone. That said, Mother had taken it to heart. The very next day, she insisted on taking me to Xian Temple to burn incense. The carriage stopped at the temple gate. Xian Temple was bustling with worshippers. Ladies and young misses came in a steady stream. I helped Mother step down from the carriage. A warm, gentle voice came from behind us. Young. I turned around. Shinshuren stood 3 paces away. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Shinshuren, the eldest son of the Shin family, who had grown up alongside me since childhood. When I was 5 and fell from a tree, he carried me on his back for 3 blocks to find a doctor. When I was 12 and accidentally fell into the water, he jumped into the icy lake to pull me out. If not for that fire, if not for Qi Qingyan, I would likely have obeyed my mother's wishes and married him. I glanced at my mother standing nearby. I immediately understood the purpose of her visit. It turned out that burning incense was just an excuse. The real purpose was to have me meet Shinshuren. I cowl, and help but chuckle. My mother made an excuse to leave, giving us a chance to be alone. Shinshuren and I walked all the way to the peach grove at Xian Temple. He told me about recent events in the capital. Out of the blue, Shinshuren suddenly stopped. I tilted my head in confusion. Then I saw a tall figure walking slowly toward us from a short distance away. Qi Qingyan. Before I could react, Qi Qingyan had already stepped in front of us. His gaze first fell on my face, then shifted to Shinshuren. His eyes darkened. Shinshuren clasped his hands in a bow. Master Qi. What a coincidence. Qi Qingyan did not return the gesture. He simply stood there, his gaze returning to my face. I took him in from head to toe. For some reason, I couldn't help but feel that Qi Qingyan was dressed even more flamboyantly than last time. His already stunning features seemed even more radiant, like a peacock spreading its tail feathers. The moment that thought crossed my mind, I was startled. This was Qi Qingyan, the man who had captured the hearts of countless noble ladies. How could he possibly do such a thing? After a moment's thought, I asked politely, "Are you here to admire the flowers as well, Master Qi?" Qi Qingyan did not respond. He looked at me, staring for a long time. So long that Shinshuren furrowed his brow slightly. Miss Qing seems to be in quite the mood today. He finally spoke, his voice flat. Yesterday you were still saying your family's status isn't high enough to withstand gossip. Yet today you're strolling through the peach grove with Master Shin. There was something off about those words. Shinshuren's expression darkened slightly. In comparison, I remained much more composed. I thought to myself, Qi Qingyan must be in a bad mood today. After all, he's always been a cold person by nature, and his temperament is peculiar. It was like that in my past life. Sometimes, if I said the wrong thing, he'd stay silent for an entire night. The next day, he'd act as if nothing had happened and let me kiss his scar again. I suppose today is no different. It's no big deal. Before I could say anything, Shinshuren took a step forward, shielding me behind him. He blocked Qi Qingyan's view. Qi Qingyan tugged at the corner of his mouth and gave a soft chuckle, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Miss Chang's standards for idle gossip seem to vary depending on the person. If that's the case, then why did you accept the Qi family's heirloom hairpin? Me. How could that hairpin be a family heirloom? Section Idarticletric Section Qi Qingyan never told me that in my past life either. I froze for a moment. In my past life, Qi Qingyan had indeed given me many things. A white jade hairpin, a jadeite bracelet, coral earrings. Every time he had me kiss those scars, a piece of jewelry would be delivered to my room the next day. He had given me this white jade magnolia hairpin in my previous life as well. Back then, he had simply handed it to me casually, saying, "It's of good quality. It suits you." His tone was as matter-of-fact as if he were commenting on the weather. So how did it become a family heirloom in this life? Before I could figure it out, Qi Qingyan had already averted his gaze and walked straight past me. My mother was waving at me from a distance. I had no choice but to suppress my doubts and bid Shinshuren a hasty farewell. Shinshuren smiled. "Never mind. I'll pay a visit to your estate another day, after my mother had finished drawing her fortune slip. Something suddenly occurred to me, so I asked the young monk to take me to see the abbot. Fearing they might find it presumptuous, I made up a story on the spot. The other day at the Marquis's birthday banquet, I heard people mention a temple where a candlestick toppled over and burned down the entire rear hall, causing many casualties. Just now, seeing so many eternal lamps in the main hall, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Spring days are so dry, and the temple is filled with incense. Candles and lamp oil are unpredictable. What if? Actually, it wasn't exactly a fabrication. That's exactly how it happened in my past life. It was a spring day just like this one. The spring breeze was gentle, and the temple was bustling with pilgrims. I was resting in a side room of the rear hall when I suddenly heard someone outside shouting, "Fire!" Before I even had a chance to run out, thick smoke surged in. Immediately afterward, the roof beams collapsed. I was completely trapped in the inferno. The abbot was fingering his prayer beads. The clinking sound snapped me back to reality. He smiled serenely. "You are very thoughtful, layperson." As it happens, another layperson expressed the very same concern today. I froze. Another one. The abbot didn't tell me who that person was. A lingering doubt gnawed at me, yet it also felt absurd. Perhaps it was just another pilgrim speaking offhand. I had thought that after my rebirth, nothing could stir my heart. But every time I encountered Qi Qingyan, I felt a bit at a loss. I had only seen him twice, once at the Jing'an Marquis mansion and once at Xi'an Temple. Yet he had haunted my dreams like a ghost. Once again, I was startled awake by those menacing eyes in my dream. My mother asked with concern if I was ill. I shook my head, saying only that I was suffering from spring drowsiness. Ever since returning from Xi'an Temple, I've stayed at home, partly because I'm afraid of running into Qi Qingyan again, partly because I want to spend more time with my parents. In my previous life, after I married into the Qi family, I returned to the Qing household only a handful of times. Qi Qingyan didn't want me to go out. He certainly didn't want me to see visitors. During the 3 years I was married to him, the thing I did most was wait. Wait for him to return from court. Wait for him to come home, and wait for him to pull me into his arms and force me to kiss him. The consequence of thinking too much is that it even creeps into your dreams. So I forced myself not to think about Qi Qingyan. Mother, of course, had no idea what was on my mind. Instead, she spoke of Shinshuren day in and day out. I've watched Shuren grow up. His character is beyond reproach. The Shin family's social standing is slightly higher than ours. But his father and your father are friends. He would never look down on you. Besides, Shuren has always looked out for you since he was a child. Just as mother said. As for Shinshuren himself, gentle, considerate, and someone I know inside and out. I certainly wouldn't suffer any hardship if I married into his family. In fact, mother had mentioned this match in my previous life as well. It was I who knelt before Lady Qi and vowed to repay Qi Qingyan with my entire life. Mother had frowned at the time. She said, Young, have you really thought this through? This isn't something to be taken lightly. I didn't listen. This time around, I should listen. even if I feel no romantic attachment to Shinchurin. I am willing to follow Mother's arrangements. Let Mother decide. That's what I said. Who would have thought I wouldn't see Shinchurin at the mansion? Instead, we ran into each other first at the flower viewing banquet at the Marquis of Jinnan's residence. Mother looked at the two of us and smiled meaningfully. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Shinchurin seemed a bit uneasy as well. After accompanying Mother to pay our respects to the Marquis's wife, a sudden gasp of surprise rippled through the hall. I instinctively looked in the direction of the sound. Qi Qingyan was standing at the entrance to the flower hall, dressed in a moon-white long robe. His features appeared even more refined and elegant. My breath caught in my throat. A Qi Qingyan like this was truly a rare sight. In my previous life, after his face was disfigured, he usually wore a mask, and just like his mask, his clothes were mostly black. It wasn't that they looked bad. He was tall and straight, so he looked good in anything. It was just that the color really didn't suit his fair complexion. But today's color was simply too pleasing to the eye. It wasn't just me. The noble ladies around us were whispering to one another, their eyes sparkling with admiration. He's dressed even more elegantly today than he did at the birthday banquet. Didn't he used to dislike dressing up? Look at that sash, it's embroidered with gold thread cloud patterns. How much effort that must have taken. I lowered my eyes, pretending not to notice. My mother chuckled softly at my side. Young Master Qi seems to be in quite a good mood today. I smiled but didn't respond. Instead, I turned my head and cast a casual glance at the peach blossoms in full bloom outside. A piercing gaze fell upon my profile. I ignored it. Never mind. Today was likely just a coincidence. From now on, I'll simply avoid him. Once he takes the imperial examination next month, he will naturally enter the court as an official and no longer have such leisurely moments. The flower hall gradually grew livelier. My mother was pulled aside by several ladies for small talk. Finding a moment to myself, I walked alone deeper into the garden. The peach blossoms were in full bloom. Petals swirled in the wind, settling all over my shoulders. The Marquis of Jinnan's mansion truly lived up to its reputation as a refined and cultured household. They had even invited a renowned qin player from the capital to perform. I instinctively made my way toward the pavilion. The sound of the qin was clear and resonant. The qin player was exceptionally handsome. I stood there, completely absorbed in the music. Naturally, I didn't notice that someone had appeared behind me. The music stopped abruptly. The qin player looked up, his gaze passing right past me, and he paused slightly. Master Qi. My spine stiffened. Qi Qingyan's deep voice came from above me. It sounded as if he were suppressing some emotion. Qing Yang. Be honest, I truly did not want to have anything more to do with Qi Qingyan. But for some reason, in this life, Qi Qingyan always seems to show up wherever I am. And every single time, he's dressed so flamboyantly. Is this what Qi Qingyan was like before we were married? I was afraid that what happened at that birthday banquet would happen again, so I turned and walked toward the rock garden, intending to take a shortcut back to the flower hall. Just as I rounded a rock formation, a hand suddenly reached out from behind the stones and clamped down on my wrist. Before I could react, I was yanked into the hollow of the rock, my back pressed against the cold stone wall. And before me was a warm chest. I looked up. It was Qi Qingyan, one hand braced against the stone wall beside my ear, the other still gripping my wrist. Then he leaned down slightly, enveloping me entirely in his shadow. A sliver of light filtering through the opening fell upon his face, flickering on and off. His gaze was dark. I couldn't fathom what lay hidden within it. His breath brushed my forehead, scorching hot. I struggled briefly, but couldn't break free. Master Qi, please let go. He didn't. His gaze slowly shifted away from my eyes, as if by chance. He glanced toward the pavilion. The musician had resumed playing. The sound of the zither drifted faintly toward us. Qi Qingyan withdrew his gaze and looked at me again. The corners of his lips slowly curved upward, yet the smile did not reach his eyes. His voice was very low. Every word he spoke seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Young. You've looked at him many times. You think he's more handsome than me without my scars, don't you? My eyes widened suddenly. Qi Qingyan. Had he been reborn too? Is he handsome? I suppose so. A face without scars, who wouldn't find that appealing? But I don't have any scars either. Why? Why won't you look at me? Qingyan. Qi Qingyan's voice was right by my ear. I could even feel the warm breath he exhaled as he spoke. It was hot. So hot that the tips of my ears began to burn. Since we'd already brought it up, there was no point in pretending anymore. I struggled to break free, but to no avail. I looked up and met Qi Qingyan's slightly reddened eyes. Qi Qingyan, let me go first. We can talk this out calmly. I had already adopted a conciliatory tone, but he remained as unyielding as a mountain. Qi Qingyan gave a soft chuckle, his voice growing somber. Do you think heaven has given you a second chance to choose? So you want to abandon me? Suddenly, he had hit the nail on the head. I felt a sudden, inexplicable pang of guilt. Qi Qingyan's jaw was clenched so tightly it trembled. Why did it take you so long? Did you remarry after I died? Who did you marry? Sinister. It makes sense. After all, you two were meant for each other from the start. I was the one who forced my way into your destiny. The more I listened, the more confused I became. What on earth was he talking about? And what did this have to do with Sinister anyway? Qi Qingyan was always like this, moody and unpredictable, spouting strange nonsense. If a single word didn't please him, he'd fix me with a dark, brooding stare. He wouldn't lighten his expression until he'd wrung a pleasing answer from my lips. In the last life, I owed him that. But in this one, I hadn't done anything to wrong him. Why should I put up with this? My hands were bound. I couldn't move. Even a cornered rabbit will bite. I suddenly lowered my head and lunged at the crook of his neck. Then I bit down hard on the soft flesh there. Qi Qingyan did indeed cry out in pain, but he quickly fell silent. He was just trembling slightly. I thought he would let me go soon. But when I lifted my head again, I found Qi Qingyan smiling. Yes, he was smiling. His trembling wasn't from pain, but from pleasure. Qi Qingyan looked truly handsome when he smiled. He'd look even better if I ignored the darkness in his eyes. That really hurt. Young, are you satisfied? I cursed him silently under my breath. You're crazy, taking advantage of his distraction. I shoved him away hard, sensing I was about to leave. Qi Qingyan suddenly pressed my palm against his face. His tone carried a hint of urgency. Qingyan, look at me, this facete's clean and clear, without a single scar. Touch it however you like. If you find it repulsive, then there's nothing I can do. I've already shown you my best side. The skin beneath my fingertips was fine and smooth. Nothing like the rough, uneven texture of his past life. I suddenly found it all a bit ridiculous. What on earth was Qi Qingyan pretending to be? Clearly, in his letter from the previous life, he had written, if I could, I would rather not have saved her. And now he's putting on this act of deep marital affection. Thinking of that letter, a sharp pain pierced my heart. After taking a deep breath, I looked at Qi Qingyan. I said, word by word, Sinister and I are getting married that day. Both Qi Qingyan and I left in a state of disarray. His eyes were bloodshot. My legs felt weak. In the days that followed, I did not see Qi Qingyan once. I heard from Mother that the matriarch of the Qi family seemed to be scouting for noble young ladies in the capital. Everyone knew that Qi Qingyan's future in officialdom would be bright. Naturally, he was the man every noble young lady would fight tooth and nail to marry. When I heard this news, I was helping Mother arrange flowers. Suddenly, a thorn from the flower pricked my fingertip. I stared at the droplet of blood that emerged. Momentarily oblivious to the pain, my mother gasped and hurried to bandage my finger. I smiled wistfully. Never mind. For us to go our separate ways, that is the best outcome for Qi Qingyan and me. Marriage is a matter decided by parental decree and the words of matchmakers. My mother and Lady Shen are close friends. Naturally. The arrangements for my marriage to Shinsharen were proceeding in an orderly fashion. I just never expected this. Half a month later, Shinsharen was suddenly transferred to Jiangnan. They say there's been an incident with the grain transport. The court specifically ordered him to handle it. My mother frowned and murmured in complaint. That boy didn't even come to say goodbye. He left so abruptly, without even leaving a letter. I, however, didn't think much of it. How could we possibly influence matters of the imperial court? Mother continued to fret. With Shuren gone, it will be at least 3 to 5 months. I'm afraid your engagement will have to be postponed. I smiled and interrupted her. There's no rush. Your daughter is still young. My mother glanced at me, as if she wanted to say something but held back. In the end, she merely sighed. Never mind. Never mind. Let's just consider it a case of good things come to those who wait. I didn't let it show on my face, but deep down, I couldn't shake a sense of unease. In my previous life, Shinsharen had never been to Jiangnan. Doubts swirled in my mind, yet I couldn't pinpoint their source. But I had a premonition that something else was bound to happen. Sure enough, 3 days later, the matriarch of the Qi family hosted a tea ceremony. When the invitation arrived at the Qing residence, my mother was taken aback. Our family has never had any dealings with the Qis. Why would they suddenly send an invitation? I didn't respond. I just stared blankly at the handwriting on the invitation. It was Qi Qingyan's handwriting. We couldn't very well snub the Qi family. In the end, Mother took me there. The Qi residence was even more grand than the Marquis of Jinan's estate. Pavilions and towers, winding streams where cups floated downstream. Every corner exuded the heritage of a distinguished, prominent family, the old madam of the Qi family, with her kind and benevolent eyes, took my hand and examined me closely. She smiled meaningfully. What a lovely child. You're truly beautiful. I lowered my eyes in a curtsy, my peripheral vision sweeping across the hall. Qi Qingyan was nowhere to be seen. I let out a sigh of relief. But before I could fully relax, a maid arrived with a report. Lady Qi, second young master says he is feeling unwell and will not be coming to pay his respects to you today. Lady Qi frowned and muttered under her breath. That child. Then she turned back to the other guests with a smile. I held my teacup. I listened absently to the chatter and laughter around me. What has become of second young master Qi lately? He was fine the last time we were at the Marquis's residence, but he hasn't attended a single banquet these past few days. Who knows? Perhaps he's busy preparing for the exams. True enough. With the palace examination approaching, no one would have the heart for socializing. The palace examination. My mind drifted. In my previous life, Qi Qingyan should have placed first in the imperial examination. But back then, he had recently been disfigured. Under the strange stares of the entire court, he underperformed and only placed in the second tier. In this life, he shouldn't end up like that. Miss Cheng. Someone called out to me. I snapped back to reality and found all the ladies and young misses around me staring at me. Oh, it turned out to be Lady Qi, the matriarch, asking how old I was now, meeting my mother's reproachful gaze. I hurriedly replied, my daughter has passed her comingafage ceremony and is now 17. Hearing this, the matriarch's smile grew even broader. She raised her hand to summon a maidservant and said gently, this child must be feeling a bit bored. Su Weiping. Take Miss Qing for a walk in the garden. The crabapples are blooming beautifully out there. I was a bit overwhelmed by the kindness. Lady Qi and I had met only once, yet she treated me with such warmth. Suppressing my surprise, I hurried down the steps. I followed the maid deeper into the garden. As we moved further away from the dense blossoms, I began to feel a bit puzzled. But the maid continued to lead the way. Every now and then, she glanced back at me. I was just about to speak up, when she suddenly stopped in her tracks. She curtsied to me. "Miss Ching, second young master is just up ahead. I shall take my leave now. Me." Before I could react, the maid had already hurried away. I froze in place. Under the begonia tree ahead, Qi Qingyan stood with his hands behind his back. He looked like a figure from a painting, hearing the sound of my approach. He turned around. I could clearly see the shadow in his eyes. "Why did your fiancé go to Jiangnan at a time like this?" My heart skipped a beat. Instinctively, I asked, "How do you know?" Qi Qingyan swept his gaze over my expression. His face tightened slightly. "Are you that worried about him?" Me. I wasn't worried at all. It was clearly him speaking in that sarcastic tone. I was just asking a normal question, but I knew full well that reasoning with Qi Qingyan was useless. To prevent him from getting caught up in his own emotions, I changed my tone. "I was just curious how you found out." Qi Qingyan's expression softened slightly. He looked at me calmly, even with a hint of defiance. He said, enunciating each word clearly, "I was the one who recommended him for the post on the Grand Canal." I was a bit taken aback. Qi Qingyan had walked over to stand just a step away from me. He leaned down and whispered to me, "My master is Chief Minister Chen. Transferring someone to Jiangnan is as easy as a single word." My heart sank. Just as I suspected, it was Qi Qingyan's doing. A vague, indescribable sense of gloom suddenly welled up in my chest. I sighed and looked up at the begonia blossoms. I murmured, "It's over between us. Why are you still meddling in my affairs?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I saw Qi Qingyan's expression darken completely. Just as I was about to say something, he took a deep breath and looked up at me. I was startled to see that his usually somber eyes were now veiled in a mist. Qi Qingyan. Was he crying? This realization shook me to the core. For a moment, I couldn't utter a single word. Qi Qingyan's eyes were slightly red, glistening with tears. "Yes, I am not your husband. I have no right to interfere in your affairs. If it weren't for Shinchuren, would you like me this way? With this appearance? Dressed like this, would you still like me?" His voice grew softer and softer. By the end, it had almost turned into a plea. That handsome face was clearly pleading. "Look at me." It would be a lie to say I wasn't shocked. But even so, I hadn't forgotten the letters from my past life. I took a half step back. Qi Qingyan froze for a moment. It was as if something had shattered in the depths of his eyes. I turned my head away, forcing myself not to look at him, as if doing so would keep me from softening. "I saw the letters between you and Gu Qing. Ji Yuqing was Qi Qingyan's close friend in both lifetimes. Their bond was deep friendship that had withstood the test of life and death." Just as I expected, upon hearing Gu Cheng's name, a flicker of surprise crossed Qi Qingyan's eyes. I clenched my fist. I calmly recited the contents of the letter, which I had remembered until my dying breath in my previous life. "You said that, if you could, you would rather not have saved me." The handwriting was his. The letter had been hidden in a secret compartment in the study. In my previous life, I never would have imagined it, that Qi Qingyan would actually think that way. But I suppose it was a blessing from heaven, to let me live again, so I could avoid the outcome of my previous life. Qi Qingyan stared at me blankly. The expression on his face shifted rapidly. His voice finally began to crack. "No, that's not it. Yang, that's not it." Qi Qingyan let out a bitter laugh. It sounded like self-mockery, or perhaps resignation. "Qin Yang, even if I had to do it 1,000 times over, I would still save you. But I still can't help but hate you." I clenched my teeth. Just as I thought, Qi Qingyan admitted it. He hates me. It felt as if my throat were stuffed with a wad of cotton. I struggled to speak. Qi Qingyan's hand had closed around mine at some point. Very tightly. So tightly that my knuckles began to ache. I hate you so much, Qingyan, even though I loathe those scars. I still have to force myself to swallow my disgust and say I don't mind them. Do you know that? Every time you kiss me. Your lips are trembling. My face was frozen in shock. I stared blankly at Qi Qingyan's slightly contorted face. He pulled me close in one swift motion. His burning lips pressed against my wrist. Qi Qingyan was trembling, just as I had when I kissed him in my past life. But so what if? It's disgusting. I want you to remember exactly how these scars came to be. I want you to feel guilty toward me for the rest of your life, to be responsible for me for the rest of your life, and to stay by my side, even if it disgusts you for the rest of your life. I will never let you go. Look how pitiful I am. All I've ever wanted, from the very beginning, is your love, but your heart belongs only to Shinshirian. It was so in our past life. And it's even more so in this one. Even if my face were perfectly intact, you wouldn't spare me a single glance. Qi Qingyan's chest heaved violently. His eyes turned an intense crimson with emotion. Clear fingerprints had already been left on the hand he was gripping. My vision was filled with Qi Qingyan's almost obsessive gaze. Yet I forgot to pull away. I also forgot to cry out in pain. Qi Qingyan. Is this really how he feels? He poured out his confession, word by word, as if he'd given up entirely. He tore open all his dark and vile sides to show me, seeing me remain silent for a long time. Qi Qingyan slowly released my hand. He lifted it and blew on it gently. His tone was somewhat sinister. I truly wish I had never saved you, because after saving you, I became a person even I despised. If I could do it all over again, I'd rather have died in that fire. At least then, you would remember me for a long, long time. After all, no living person can compare to a dead one. Though his warm breath was clearly on the back of my hand, I felt a chill run through my entire body. Qi Qingyan and I parted on bad terms, or perhaps, to be more precise, he was the one who was upset. I was more like I'd been scared out of my wits. Ever since returning from the Qi residence that day, I'd fallen ill. My mother summoned several doctors to examine me. They all said it was a blockage of heart fire, compounded by the spring wind's evil influence entering my body. I needed to rest and recuperate properly. During that time, the old lady of the Qi family sent over some precious herbs. I didn't need to guess to know that Qi Qingyan had sent them through the old lady, after sending away another servant from the Qi mansion. I lay in bed. My mind was filled with the image of Qi Qingyan's reddened eyes. Only now did I belatedly grasp the deeper meaning behind the words he had spoken that day. Qi Qingyan. He must like me, doesn't he? And what about me? Do I like him? In my past life, I had indeed married Qi Qingyan out of guilt. But what about after the wedding? I couldn't help but begin to recall the 3 years since our marriage. To be fair, Qi Qingyan was, by all accounts, a good husband. No one in the Qi household dared to treat me unfairly. There were no conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law or between sisters-in-law. Outside the home, he carried the prestigious reputation of a high-ranking official. No one dared to treat him with disrespect or look down on him. Naturally, I had the final say in all matters at home. Seen in this light, even Qi Qingyan's peculiarities in the bedroom seemed like a minor flaw that didn't detract from his overall worth. I let out a heavy sigh. Never mind. What's the point of agonizing over whether I like him or not now? It's impossible between us anyway. A few days later, I recovered from my illness. Seeing how gloomy I'd been lately, Mother took the initiative to suggest we go out for a change of scenery. The Shu Theater in the south of the city is staging a new spring production of The West Chamber. Not wanting to worry her, I smiled and agreed. In a daze, I recalled how, in my past life, I'd always been cooped up in the Qi mansion. For a time, I'd actually loved listening to opera. Qi Qingyan must have heard about it from one of the maids. Within a few days, He'd conjured up a makeshift stage out of thin air. He even invited famous performers from Jiangnan. Even though he was the type who disliked crowds, he insisted on accompanying me to listen for several days. Thinking back now, it seems he never made a secret of his fondness for me. It was I who was too slow to catch on. I also placed too much weight on the debt of gratitude for saving my life, to the point that I always felt guilty toward him. Consequently, most of what I did for him stemmed from a desire to make amends. The play hadn't even begun, yet the garden was already packed to the brim. The ladies and young misses of the capital were gathered in small groups of 3 or 5. Their soft, melodious chatter filled the air with lively excitement. My mother and I had a private box on the second floor, directly facing the stage. While we waited for the performance to begin, my mother was drawn away by the ladies from other boxes to chat, so I sat in our box, sipping tea. My maid asked me eagerly about the play, saying it was her first time at a place like this. I smiled and teased her a bit. Before I could tell her what the play was about, a sudden cry rang out from downstairs. Fire! There's a fire backstage. My heart sank. Thick smoke billowed out from behind the curtains on both sides of the stage. The theater instantly descended into chaos. My maid grabbed my arm, ready to run. I stopped dead in my tracks. Where was Mother? I'd been through a fire before. I knew exactly what it felt like to be trapped in one. That was precisely why I feared something might have happened to Mother in the panic. I yanked my hand free from the maid's grip. I ran back against the flow of the crowd. The fire was worse than I'd imagined. It was probably because the theater was filled with curtains, costumes, and wooden tables and chairs, all highly flammable materials. I covered my mouth and nose with my handkerchief, straining to spot my mother. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the thick smoke and gripped my wrist tightly. The next second, I was pulled into a familiar embrace. Qingyan, are you trying to get yourself killed? It was Qi Qingyan's voice. Before I could speak, he continued. Mrs. Qing has already been rescued. I froze for a moment. In that very instant, a deafening crash echoed overhead. The roof beams collapsed. Qi Qingyan threw me to the ground with all his might. He pinned himself on top of me. Then I heard him groan softly. Warm liquid dripped onto my face. It was blood. Instantly, memories from my past life flooded back like a tidal wave. It was a fire again. And again. He was shielding me with his body. A fear of fire crept into my heart. I heard my own voice trembling. Qi Qingyan, are you okay? He didn't answer. He simply pushed himself up with his arms, rolled off me, and pulled me to my feet. He gripped my hand tightly and ran toward the theater's exit. The moment I breathed in the fresh air, I lost consciousness. All I could hear was my mother's frantic cry, Yang Yang. The first thing I asked when I woke up was, where's Qi Qingyan? It was almost exactly the same as in my previous life. My mother wiped away her tears. He's not in any life-threatening danger. But unfortunately, his face was injured. We owe the Qi family a huge favor. A buzzing sound rang in my ears. My face again. No matter how I looked at it, I was still in his debt. After the doctor declared me unharmed, my father and mother took me to the Qi family's residence. To the surprise of our entire family, the Qi family simply let it slide. Even as my parents and I walked out the main gate of the Qi estate, I still couldn't believe it. I had expected Qi Qingyan to make the most of this situation, but I never expected him to stay completely out of sight the entire time. In fact, for a long time afterward, I didn't hear a single word about Qi Qingyan. The next time I heard his name was when he became the new top scholar. Right after that, came an imperial messenger from the palace. My parents were both puzzled as to why he would come to the Qing family, but they still knelt to receive the edict. The newly crowned top scholar, Qi Qingyan, possesses exceptional talent and upright character. He is hereby granted a royal favor. He is permitted to marry Qingyang, the eldest daughter of the Qing family. and the wedding shall take place on an auspicious day. I knelt on the ground, a buzzing sound ringing in my ears. Had Qi Qingyan lost his mind? He had traded his top scholar title for an imperial decree of arranged marriage. Father's hands were trembling as he accepted the edict. Mother stood frozen in place. She was speechless for a long while. After the eunuch who delivered the edict left, the hall fell into a deathly silence. Father and mother saw that my reaction was the same as theirs. They knew they wouldn't get any answers, so they stopped asking. After all, an imperial edict must not be disobeyed. The wedding was set for 3 months later. When the news spread, the capital was in an uproar. Everyone was speculating. How could the newly crowned top scholar possibly set his sights on a family of the Chang standing? Some said I was reaching too high. Others claimed Qi Qingyan must have his own hidden reasons. Whenever mother went out to socialize, people would always pull her aside to ask all sorts of questions. At first, she would offer a few explanations. Later, she simply stopped talking about it altogether. But every time she returned, she would look at me and sigh. Young. Tell your mother honestly, have you and young Master Qi known each other for a long time? I remained silent for a long while. I suppose so. My mother hesitated, as if she wanted to say more. In the end, she didn't press the matter further. Still, we had to go to the Shin family to offer an apology. During the preparations for the wedding, waves of matronly stewards sent by the Qi family came and went. The list of betrothal gifts was endless. Gold, silver, jewels, silk brocades, antiques, and calligraphy and paintings. Not a single item was missing. But Qi Qingyan never once showed his face. It was as if he were deliberately avoiding me. During this time, I asked, "How has your second master been lately?" The matron of the household paused, startled. Then she smiled even more broadly. "He's doing well, just very busy. He's just joined the Hanlin Academy, so he works late every night. But second young master said that once this busy period is over, he'll come personally to apologize to Miss Ching." Apologize. So he knew his behavior was inappropriate after all. Qi Qingyan did indeed come to see me as soon as he was free. Just as he'd said, he stood before me. Silence hung in the air for a long time. "Qingyan, that I've come to apologize. That I'd planned to confront him fiercely the moment I saw him. But when I actually saw him, all I could think was how much he'd wasted away. That's what I thought to myself. But what came out of my mouth was, 'What are you apologizing for?'" Qi Qingyan's voice dropped even lower. "For acting on my own and petitioning for this imperial edict. I know you don't want to marry me, but I couldn't wait any longer. If I hadn't acted quickly, there would be no chance once Shinshuren returned." Shinshuren. Always Shinshuren. I couldn't take it anymore and cut him off. "Qi Qingyan, I never said I liked Shinshuren in my past life. Why do you always bring him up?" He froze at my outburst, but he refused to answer me. Qi Qingyan was always like this. He never told me his true thoughts. He always made me guess. Back and forth like this. I was getting tired of it. That's exactly how it was in our past life. He suppressed his feelings, refusing to reveal even a shred of them. One misstep led to another, and the misunderstandings only grew. In the end, it all ended in such a tragic way. I stared at him. My gaze couldn't help but fall on the faint scar at the corner of his forehead. It was from that day when he was struck by a roof beam. I reached out, my fingertips gently brushing against it. Qi Qingyan's body tensed suddenly. "Does it hurt?" I asked. His Adam's apple bobbed once. "It doesn't hurt. You're lying," I said. Blood was running down my face that day. It was so hot. How could it not hurt? Qi Qingyan slowly lifted his eyes. A smile was hidden in his gaze. "Are you worried about me, Young?" Yes. I was worried about him. The same thing had happened twice. No one could remain unmoved by the rescuer. After emerging from the fire that day, my very last thought before I fainted was, So, in my past life, I hadn't married Qi Qingyan solely out of guilt. Perhaps in that very moment when he rushed into the burning building alone to save me, I had already quietly fallen for him. How else could I explain why someone like Mu-ho can't stand being wronged would have endured Qi Qingyan for 3 whole years in my past life? Qi Qingyan took in my reaction. Suddenly, he spoke. "I've found out that Shinshuren has someone he likes." I nodded indifferently. I didn't react much. Actually, it should have been obvious. Shinshuren, like me, wasn't particularly invested in this marriage. How could the bonds of childhood friendship be confused with romantic love? But we couldn't resist our parents' matchmaking. We had no choice but to go along with it silently. I suspect his trip to Jiangnan was driven by his own personal motives as well. Seeing my composed expression, Qi Qingyan's face darkened instantly. Even if he has someone he loves, you'd still marry him? I looked up in confusion. I couldn't follow Qi Qingyan's train of thought at all. But he continued, "If it had been Shinshuren who saved you in your past life, would you still marry me?" Me? Why did he bring up my past life again? I suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. I tried to turn and leave, but Qi Qingyan grabbed my wrist. "Qingyang, now that you've seen the scar on my forehead, do you think I'm no longer handsome? Don't leave me. Don't abandon me." I never imagined Qi Qingyan would utter such desperate words. But he did. I tried to cut him off, but he was completely out of control. "I'm sorry, Yang. In our last life, I became greedy.at first. I just wanted you to repay me. Then I wanted you to feel guilty. After that, I wanted you to feel sorry for me. And finally, I wanted you to love me. Don't hate me for taking the initiative. And don't despise me when I grow old and lose my looks. I beg you. Don't abandon me." I let out a heavy sigh. I raised my hand to wipe the tears from his face. With a touch of exasperation, I said, "Why are you such a crybaby? How come I never noticed this in our last life?" He didn't answer. He just pulled me forcefully into his embrace. I whispered, "I'm not rejecting you, I just feel for you. I feel for you having carried this burden alone for so long, and for how you've loved me all along but dared not say it. Insisting on testing me with roundabout hints and making me guess." Finally, I laughed out loud. "Qi Qingyan, are you crazy?" He didn't argue. He just lowered his eyes. His voice very soft. "I'm afraid. Me. Afraid of what?" "Afraid that if I say I like you, you'll think I'm repaying a debt of gratitude. And then you'll be nice to me out of guilt. I don't want that kind of kindness." One of Qi Qingyan's rare moments of candor. Yet his words always struck me right in the heart. I lowered my gaze. I whispered, "Qi Qingyan, I do like you." As the words fell, the arms holding me stiffened slightly. His voice sounded muffled. "Is that true?" "It's true." Qi Qingyan seemed to believe me. "Then can you comfort me a little?" But he quickly changed his mind. "Never mind. I won't put you in a difficult position." I looked at him, torn between laughter and tears. The scar on Qi Qingyan's forehead wasn't very noticeable. It didn't detract from his good looks either. But he still said, "I'll take good care of my facettes, my bargaining chip to keep you." I stifled a laugh and nodded. "Beauty fades. And so does love. I've known that truth for a long time." I nodded again. "Don't see Shinshuren anymore." I didn't nod, regaining my composure. "That won't do. I still need to apologize to him." Qi Qingyan exploded. "I've already apologized to him." I was taken aback. Qi Qingyan said, "This grain transport mission is an opportunity. If we perform well, His Majesty might put me in a position of trust." I nodded in understanding. I was about to say something else. Qi Qingyan gently covered my mouth. He whispered soothingly, "My dear wife, don't worry about it anymore. Just wait for me to marry you. Okay." I smiled. "Okay, debts from a past life. A bond in this one. This time, there will be no more debts, only a lifetime together." The story has come to an end. Thank you all for reading. See you in the next one.